Okay, thank you. Thanks to all of you to attend my presentation about fully automate your Java deployment using Ansible. The first thing is that I'm a bit sick, so I am a bit less energetic than I am normally. I don't think I will fall asleep during the presentation, but if you know me, you might find me very tame today. Okay, let's start. Let's start by me, actually, because maybe not everybody know me and in this call. I am not that famous. So my name is Romain Pelisse. I'm a French guy living in Germany. I've been working for Red Hat for over a decade. I think I am in my 13 years. But I actually have been working with JBoss and open source technologies since the beginning of my career, so 2004, 2005. I'm almost at my 20 years of open source technology. Actually, I think I have never worked in any kind of proprietary technology, or at least not in an important way. So at Red Hat, I was working for a long time for the JBoss part of Red Hat, which has been called the middleware part of Red Hat, and it's now called the runtime part of Red Hat. But I was basically working on the Java solution for that Red Hat is producing, and mostly on the infamous JBoss/Wildfly server. Since a few years now, I moved away from that to become the lead engineer of the Ansible middleware initiative, or rather the Ansible for runtime initiative, which, as you're going to see during this presentation, is an initiative aiming at taking every Java runtime we have in Red Hat and making them first-class citizen in the Ansible ecosystem. You might also know me because I try to write regularly for the Red Hat developer blog. I have been, for those of you who read French and maybe buy the Linux magazine French, you may have seen a few articles from me because I have written in Linux magazine French for over 15 years now. Actually, I think it's also going 20. I also play drums for people who care. I even have a band on Jamendo because my music is like my source code. It's open source. And I love a role-playing game called Shadowrun. So this is another way you might have heard from me, but it has no bearing on today. Okay, that being done, what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about today about basically two things. Is what I call the SOTA of app deployment, the state of the art of app deployment, like what and how should be an app deployment today. And we're going to compare that to where we are, generally speaking, and be very disappointed. And once I've done that, I'm going to discuss a bit more how Ansible can help on this topic. So, in a perfect world, what do we want? We want that the application is running all the time, there's no downtime. If we have to update something, no downtime. And if we have to upgrade something, no downtime. That's what we want, perfect world. We also want to deploy everything with one click, basically saying, okay, I have this new version, it was validated, I push a button, and now it's in production. We want this one-click deployment, but also we want it to be secure. Of course, we want it to be repeatable. And if something fails, we want to be able to roll back immediately to the old version. So the next item is interesting because when I started my career, nobody would have talked about that. And I think nowadays, everybody is fully aware of that. We want security. So obviously, we want to be able to manage access and authorization on ACL. That is obvious. But we also want to be able to deploy CVEs, so like fixes for CVEs actually, on these kind of things. And the minute, let's say you're running RHEL, the minute Red Hat is releasing security fix for your Red Hat Enterprise Linux system, you want to apply the security fix in your production so that your production is protected from being exploited by bad actors. Of course, we want app autoscale. So, I have more users today. I don't need to care about anything. The app is autoscaling automatically, and there is more instances to cope with the increased load. So, if you're familiar with Red Hat OpenShift, you're going to tell me, hey, but that's OpenShift. That is mostly OpenShift. Like OpenShift is giving you most of that, if not all. But in truth, it's just because OpenShift is trying to do the perfect world. It's basically not because OpenShift is the only solution, but because OpenShift is following this menu very thoroughly. The real idea behind that is more about DevOps, and we're going to develop on that in the next part, in the second part of the talk. So now that was a perfect world. It was nice. Like one click for everything is fine. Now the real world that you probably live every day, and to live to different extent, you can let me know how much I'm close to the reality or not. The real world is that, you still have some downtime when you update and upgrade. Not everything is fully automated, especially the upgrade. I'm guessing most of you don't deploy using manual installation, a written document called manual installation with 40 steps. I do suspect that you still need a few clicks and there is still a few people involved whenever you have to deploy something. And I'm pretty sure that theoretically you can roll back, but you prefer to never do. And of course, you probably have some level of securities. You might be quite good with authorization, but not having a perfect system when it comes to deploy CVEs and stuff like that. And finally, for the jokes, you have auto scale because your coworker doing the scaling is called auto. And that's how you get auto scaled, but basically it's not happening by itself. So as I'm joking here, it's more dev and ops than DevOps. Okay, so this is a very short picture of where we are. And now the question is, how can Ansible help this picture and why Ansible can address those problems? I'm not going to do a big explanation of what is Ansible. I'm going to expect that people here know what Ansible is, but just in case you have no idea, Ansible is, what's the name for that? It's an automation framework, to call it like that. It's a scripting languages, or rather not scripting, but like a descriptive way, like a way to describe your environment, the state you want your environment to be in, and Ansible will take care of putting your environment in place. If you're familiar with Chef and Puppet, this is exact kind of solution. I find it way better than Puppet. I have played a lot with Puppet for a long time, so like you may disagree, but this is based on experience. For the funny part of it, I was advocating for a long time in Red Hat that we should acquire Puppet, and I'm very happy that we acquired Ansible instead. Okay, so that's what Ansible is, and so basically, if you come back to the slide I just discussed, we have this picture of like not everything is perfect. So what is the solution here? As I said, you could go for OpenShift or Argo CD on some fully automated automation way of deploying everything. That's one option. But Ansible is also a very strong option here because basically it's all about automation and Ansible is all about writing automation. The big advantages of Ansible over those other solutions is that it's far more flexible. If you have ever played with OpenShift or even Argo CD or this kind of continuous delivery solution, they have very, very strong ideas on how you should automate. Like it's not going to be like, oh, like I'm going to bend backward to do everything you want. It's going to be like, if you want my goodness, this is how you're going to have to automate things, and this is how you're going to have to deal with things. If you're lucky enough to fit in those kind of constraints, you have an easy day in front of you, but most people won't be able to. Not everybody can have the infrastructure to run something like OpenShift. Not everybody can deploy in the cloud for like legal reason, for instance, and there is many other reasons for doing it. Not everybody can move their monolithic application using a very powerful but very again monolithic databases, and so on and so on. So the idea here is that don't try to twist your environment to work with those solutions. Simply use Ansible to achieve the automation you want and what I call the OpenShift level of comfort. So basically getting where OpenShift is getting you fully automated everything, auto scales, this kind of things, but you basically build it to work with your application instead of turning your application into something that can work in the target environment. Obviously, for this to work, you have to automate absolutely everything. And the way I'm jokingly talking about that is that if you have any doubt about should I automate it, just automate it. Don't think about it. Some people, I've added this link, this item about GitOps because I've seen a talk yesterday on JCON where basically the guy was talking about what I was talking, but calling it GitOps. Obviously, because Ansible is just like is leaving these files, the way of deploying Ansible in your enterprise is going to have a repository where you put your Ansible script, and this repository is going to be used by your infrastructure to deploy your content and manage your infrastructure. So basically, it's GitOps. The really tricky thing here is who provides the automation. Everyone should provide this automation, which means obviously the ops, but also the dev. And I am hoping that in a very near future, there'll be even companies where blue collar developer or even project manager can have a say on even contribute to automation. Basically, the goal is that everybody can contribute to this. And That's a very important part. Everybody on both sides of the silo, because obviously, if you're working in a large organization, there is a dev somewhere, there is a ops somewhere, they're not talking to each other. They may not be even located on the same site or the same building. And this is what you want to break. And as the slide is implying, I do think that the Ansible automation can be the lingua franca between everybody. So let's try to take an example of that to make it a bit more concrete, because this was very much like a generic thing. So let's say we work for big organizations. So we are a big organization. We have like, I don't know, 500 people working in the IT department. There is like, I don't know, 100 of admins, to a few hundreds of developers. And to that, you can add all the layer of project management, QE that you need to have. And basically, we have several applications, and today we want to release a new major version of Magic App. Magic App is what? Just a simple Java web app, not something fancy, not even like a SAR for people who know very well how to deploy stuff on EAP, like just a Java web app based on the servlets and using a few G2E specs. It's running on the Red Hat JBoss EAP app server. So people who use the open source version, it's a Wildfly server. And basically, this new version has a new feature, the addition of an audit trail in the app. So basically, we go and we just add audit trail, and now everything is logged properly, which is, of course, answering the security question the security topic I was mentioning earlier. Data captured by this audit trail is being stored into SQL databases, which was not used by the previous app. So now when we deploy, we need to deploy the new app version, and we also need to ensure that this database is ready in production, accessible, and that the app is configured to use this new infrastructure. Just to make it a bit concrete, big organization is not using any kind of container. It's using a VM infrastructure based on VMware. Every machine uses RHEL and OpenJDK for the JVM. So what needs to be done to deploy Magic App? As always, we need to deploy the payload, so we need to move the file itself, and we need to update the configuration of the app on the server so that it can access the required resources, which means deploying a new version of the web app, but also updating the JBoss EAP config to use the new data sources. And of course, we need to deploy these new data sources. But obviously, Ansible being a very powerful tool for infrastructure, you should know that it's fairly easy to deploy a new data sources using Ansible, a new database, and configure it using Ansible. Let's look at the part that is concerning us here at JCON, the Java part, so the JBoss EAP automation. So big organizations have ops people in charge of the EAP install. They prepare the virtual machine and they provision it. They provide a RHEL system, so Red Hat Enterprise Linux server on top of which they deploy EAP, and they're running EAP as a system D services. And of course, they also take care of having the right OpenJDK version installed. They don't do any kind of configuration in the app server. They don't take care of any subsystem on JBoss EAP, or no JVM tuning. That might be a bit different depending on your organization. There is organization when the ops are going that deep into the server. There is organization where the ops is going even less in the server. I've seen organization where the ops are even not even the one deploying the EAP. That's okay. It should just remind you of how things are working for your organization. So now let's look at a bit on how things is being done. So those ops guys are going to write a playbook for deploying EAP. As we're going to discuss very soon, there is an extension for EAP available for Red Hat user that can allow you to install everything for EAP using Ansible. All they have to do is to write this small playbook. So it's basically one YAML file, which is not really a script at this point. It's basically a configuration file saying, hey, I need to use the Red Hat EAP extension, so the collection, and I want to have EAP installed. So we call the role EAP install. It's going to grab the zip file, install it on the server, install the JDK, deploy the unzip the zip file, configure EAP as a systemd service, and start it. That's a part of the second role we import, EAP systemd. And at the end, we got what we have on the right of the slide, which is, hey, if I do a systemctl status JBoss EAP 0, I have an EAP running on the system. Now let's look at the app deployment of things. So the big organization have dev in charge of the EAP config and in charge of deploying the workload. What they do in this world is that they just provide a configuration template that's going to be used by the playbook I showed you. That's going to say, hey, I have a new configuration. You need to modify my EAP configuration to deploy this payload and to configure the new data sources, and here's the payload you need to deploy. All of those playbooks are going to be versioned in Git. So again, GitOps. And yeah, I've been a bit quick. And so basically, to make it very simple, because there is a bit more to that, but basically all the what the people from the dev side have to do is provide this template, the one on the left side of the slide, which is YAML configuration describing the subsystem for EAP. And in this case, what they need to say, hey, we have a new data sources, it's using the PostgreSQL driver, and it's called blah, and this is the class, the driver it should use, and all the configuration. And we turn that into a template used by the automation, which means that when Ansible is going to run, it's going, thanks to the template, it's going to generate the right configuration for EAP. And when we deploy the app, it's going to say, oh, wait a minute, I've deployed the app, but I also need to change the data source service connection. So I'm going to add a driver for the data source. I'm going to see that, okay, that's need to restart. And I'm going to restart automatically EAP. So at the end of the Ansible run, you have deployed your application and EAP has been restarted and everything is in a state of running for production. Before I jump to the demo, because I have a small demo for you, I'm just going to give you a bit more of context for what we do. So this talk I've done right now, I've been focused on Java, but to be honest, this whole discussion could have been with C# application or even Python application. Like it's not very much specific to Java. It's basically to break silos between dev and ops. You need to have some kind of common language, and I posit that Ansible is a good one. However, my work, as I mentioned at the beginning of the call, is or the presentation is working on making all of our Java runtime here in Red Hat as much as possible first-class citizen in the Ansible world. And as always, we strictly follow the rule of Red Hat, which means that it's all upstream/open source first. So you can go on GitHub and you can find all of our extension for Ansible. Extension in the Ansible world is called collection. So I'm going to call them collection from now on. So you can find all of our collection for Apache Tomcat. Well, we have, for legal reason, it's a collection for GWS because we don't own the name of Apache Tomcat. You can find the collection for Wildfly. You can find the collection for Keycloak, for Infinspan. We even have a very good collection also for AMQ, Apache MQ. And I'm working currently on a Kafka collection. So you can also use Kafka to deploy stuff. And it's not on this slide, but I think we have now a release for something called, for people who like Keycloak, we have something called like Red Hat build of Keycloak. And I think now you can also deploy the Red Hat build of Keycloak using the collection. If you can't do it today, you should be able to do it in the few next weeks. And of course, those collections are, again, upstream, like you can go play with them, do whatever you want with them, like it's not nothing to do with Red Hat. Like we're happy to see patch and stuff. You can play with it. However, if you want something a bit more supported, a bit more certified, all of those collections have or will have, in the case of MQstream, downstream pendant, like a version for downstream. So we have a collection for the Red Hat JBoss web server. We have a collection for the Red Hat EAP. We have a collection for the Red Hat single sign-on. For some reason, it's in white on my slide. I don't know why. We have a collection for the data grid. We have a collection for the AMQ, and as I said, very soon for MQstream. So basically, you get everything you always get in Red Hat. You can go and play with the open source version, or you can use the certified content that we provide. Oh, there is no cost attached to that. Basically, you are covered by your subscription. So if you already have a subscription for EAP and Ansible, you can use your collection. There is no extra cost. Yeah, there is a third box about cloud enablement. We, of course, like we have many demos on Azure, some on Amazon, some on Google Cloud and stuff. Like the good thing with Ansible is that we can very much be deployed everywhere. So you can use the same playbook to deploy on Amazon that you're deploying in your internal infrastructure, minus a few configuration, of course. You can even use it for OpenStack. Like, it's completely working in all directions. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I need to switch to the demo and share my demo terminal. Oh, perfect. I was afraid of being late, but we are exactly on time. It's very impressive. Of course, feel free to fire any question you have in the chat. I will try to. I mean, I can't see the chat when I'm sharing my screen, but I will try to come back to the question at the end if I cannot do it during the stuff. So now you should be able to see my terminal. I need to switch to my terminal side. Okay, normally you should be able to see a very nice code saying hello. In case you don't know it, the most useful package ever on Linux is obviously Cose, which allow you to have a ASCII hardcode saying hello. Okay, so here I'm going to do a very silly demo because it's definitely not how you should be using Ansible, but it's really cool in terms of showing something very easily. I have a little script firing a container which basically run Rail. It's a Podman container, but it started like a Rail system, and it can even use systemctl services and stuff like that. So it's basically like a local VM. I'm going to use Ansible locally directly on this container to configure this container. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is refresh the subscription so that this container is now declared in Red Hat Customer Portal on networks and can install new packages as your Rail system will do in real life. Once I've done that, I'm going to install this extension, this collection called Red Hat EAP. So again, I'm doing, because I'm a good corporate boy, I'm doing a demo with downstream version of a connection. So I'm doing a demo with a Red Hat EAP, but there is nothing I'm going to do today now, and I'll show you now that you cannot do with the upstream version. Okay, so let's install that. Yeah, better if I put the install keyword, demo effect. So it's going, this is just going to say Ansible, hey Ansible, I need this extension called Red Hat EAP. Can you please look it up and install it? Because I'm using my professional account at Red Hat, it's going to look up not on Ansible Galaxy, which basically is open source version, or like the community version of where you deploy your collection for Ansible. It's going to look up to Ansible Automation Hub, which is a mirror of that for Red Hat customer. So it has found the collection, it has installed the collection. A nice thing that people, you're Java developer, so you're familiar with Maven. That might remind me of Maven, but that thing is that it's installing the dependency. As you can see, my collection depends on something called Red Hat runtimes, and it's also depending on Ansible POSIX, and those have been installed directly. Now I forgot to show you something important. This is an empty container. There is nothing in it. If I go into OPT, which is where I want to install EAP, my OPT is empty. There is no service. There is no Java. Let's even do that, something like that. Yeah. So that's what's running in my container. Basically nothing. Now I'm going to fire the playbook. So before firing it, I'm going to show it to you. So it's a small playbook. It's not even that much bigger than the one on my slides. It basically says what, hey, please deploy. This playbook is designed to deploy JBoss EAP. Deploy it on every host. And there is a couple of variables which configures the deployment. What do we say? We say EAP apply CP true. I'm not going to keep that mysterious and explain to you later on what it does. Which version of EAP we want to have? EAP 7.4. We want to enable the YAML config feature. This is a feature that allows us to tailor or fine-tune the subsystems. And we are going to use, so EAP offline install means I don't have already downloaded the zip file for EAP, so please go and fetch it. And the EAP config base is basically the provided configuration we want to use to deploy to configure our EAP. So if you don't do anything fancy, you can probably get away with using standalone or standalone full or standalone HA. But if you have some kind of an advanced usage or that configuration of EAP, you might replace that by your own templates, by your own, hey, this is my own base template. All that's going to be done by the playbook is take this template, copy it, and give it a name, and use this copy as a main file, which is better than using the default one, because obviously this file can be modified at runtime. Finally, we have a few configurations for the subsystem. Basically, we have a GMS queue. It's called my queue, and this is the entry. And we provide the template file that needs to be used to configure this queue. I'm going to come back on later on this later on. So obviously, collection Red Hat EAP, no mystery. I am using the Red Hat EAP collection I just installed, and role EAP install. I want to install EAP systemd. I want to integrate EAP into systemd. We also need that because the YAML configuration relies on the systemd part. Okay, that was hopefully longer to explain than it's going to be running. So here we are. So a few explanation of what I'm doing. I'm going to run the Ansible playbook using the Ansible playbook command. I'm using the inventory file that's going to say, hey, this host is the target. So it's going to run on this host. I am just passing, the only difference with the open source version is this file, service account, where I've put my Red Hat credential. This is where I'm going to say, hey, please download from Red Hat my stuff. And we just need to fire this playbook. This playbook is going to take care of everything from having a bare, like, an empty system to having a fully deployed JBoss EAP system running as system services. The first thing it's doing is completing the dependency to be installed. There is a few packages that need to be installed. I think, for instance, it's going to install unzip because it needs to unzip the zip file. I think there is a few packages that on a container you don't have by default that need to be there for Java to be happy. Is going to take care of that. And of course, if Java 11 is not installed, it's going to install Java 11. I think I already installed Java 11 on the container just for speed purposes, because otherwise it's going to make this step even longer. So right now we are a bit depending on how fast is both my internet connection and how fast is the Red Hat network to reply. After this step, the next step is going to be downloading the zip file for EAP from the Red Hat customer portal. That's a nice feature we implemented for Ansible. We have in our collection, we have like we leverage a little API where we can connect on your behalf to the Red Hat customer portal, look for available version of the product you want to install, and then grab it and install it. So it means that you don't even need, so many customers will have their own independent infrastructure, but you don't need that. Okay, also, it's taking care of all the low-level operating systems. So it's creating a group called EAP, a user called EAP. We can also see that it's creating the folder. It's ensuring that the archive has been properly oh, great demo effect. Okay, that's great demo effect. So I will have to rerun that. So it failed to download for some reason. Hopefully it will work this time. But at least you can see that I am already connecting to the customer portal. I am not cheating about that. So as I was saying, it's take care of all the low-level stuff. So EAP is a pretty friendly thing. You just need to deploy EAP user and stuff. Like there is not that much stuff to be done on the kernel. You can obviously, I personally, I like tuned ADM. I don't know if you ever been know tuned ADM, but tuned is a little tool that allows you to configure, like to basically tune your service to work well on the Red Hat target you're using, like, to doing all the kernel tuning you want to. So you could completely have tuned being run and configure for that. I think this time it works. So I have to go back a bit to explain some things. Retrieve archive. I hope it did re-download the archive and not try to install with a broken archive. Let's see. That would be no, it seems to work. Yep, it seems to work more or less. So, oh yes, that's a cool thing. You may remember that I have asked in my playbook, I wrote EAP 7.4. However, you can see that I am patching my 7.4 to use 7.4.13, which is the latest available version. That's another cool feature we implemented. Sorry. Every time, if you want, the playbook will do the work for you of looking up in the Red Hat customer portal which version of patch is available, which version, of latest version is available, of minor version, and basically grab that and install that. So you tell it, I want 7.4 plus, like up to the latest version. This is a apply CP variable I have not explained earlier, and it's basically going to say, okay, what's available? 13 is the latest one. I'm applying that, and you're going to see. If everything has went fine, you're going to see that we are actually running EAP 7.4.13 and not EAP 7.4. We did all the integration with okay, that's the interesting part also. We did all the integration with systemd, and here we use the YAML config to configure the GMS queue. So that is also something that is changed, that actively Ansible is doing something. And because we change the configuration at the end, we restart the EAP server. So first of all, let me show you that we do have an EAP server running. Exactly, we have an EAP server running. It's running fine, despite the little issue with the download. And it's running EAP 7.4.13. I don't know exactly when we're going to release the EPI 7.14. I don't think I'll be that lucky, but imagine that I rerun and we have released the EPI 7.14. Well, this will be picked up on, it will deploy the new patch and restart the EPI. Nice. Something else I wanted to show at this point. I think this is systemctl, that's all. Yes, you may remember during the talk, I mentioned repeatability. That's very important for tools like Ansible and actually to run in infrastructure in a safe way. You want those tools to ensure that your system is in the right state. And you want this tool to change what's missing. What you don't want is the tool to change actively the system every time it's running. It's called repeatability or independency to be exact. So I have run everything. Now everything is in state. As you can see, I had to perform some change. There was some stuff that was not okay and needed to be changed. But if I rerun, normally everything this time will be green and there will be no change applied. Everything will be okay. And this is called independency. That's very important because EAP on many Java runtimes have a very, very bad reputation on that. If you know EAP on our Java runtime solution, if you talk to dev, they have complained about a lot of things, but they're never going to complain about that. But if you go like to the other building where the ops are having lunch, and you ask them, hey, what do you think about JBoss EAP in production? They are going to yell about one thing. This thing is not independent. Every time we run a script, we don't know the state of it. It's horrible. So we try to make that as nice as possible and as independent as possible. And as you will see now, because I didn't change the configuration, there is nothing changing on the server. It's fully independent. Again, to go a bit faster in this demo, let's assume that now we want to change something. So I'm going to show you the GMS configuration file. I'm going to make it one tad more bigger. So this is a Wildfly configuration template I mentioned earlier where we can configure which system we want to tune using Ansible. And oh darn, I shot myself in the foot. Okay, anyway, I'm going to change that. So, well, actually, let's do that. Let's show that. So as you can see, the first thing is system property. We are adding a system property called JBoss ID. And the value used for that is the Ansible node name. Let me demo that for you. If we connect to the JBoss EAP, so by the way, as you can see now, JBoss EAP is installed here. If you connect to the JBoss EAP CLI, let's go here. Voilà. And if I look at the system property, you can see there is a JBoss one. And if I read the resources, of course, I have Butterfinger today. Up, system property, boss, read resources. You can see that it's having this cryptic name, which is the ID of the container. So let's say that we don't like that and we want to change this. Let's go here. And now instead of Ansible node name, I'm going to say JBoss host. Oh, no, sorry, we can't use JBoss anymore. EAP. EAP instance 0, whatever, just like, to have a value. I have not tested that, so I hope my demo is going to work. I think it should, but it's always nice to test something live and figure out there is a bug. So I'm rerunning the stuff, and if everything goes according to my plan, it's going to realize that my template has changed. So it's going to generate a new template, and because the template has changed, it's going to say, oh, I need to restart EAP because now EAP needs to reload the system configuration, which is happening at the start of the server, of course. As I said, the playbook is doing a lot of things. So like there is a few things to be run. It's quite fast on a container, but it's still slower than it would be if it was running on a proper server and having a lot more resources. My computer is doing a lot of things right now, so my container is getting that much resources. And obviously, often like network, as you can see in the first run, every time we have to download something from the network, it's getting quite slow, but it's because of the network, not because of Ansible. Yes, it works. So like you can see that it saw there was a new change on the GMS configuration, and it restarted the EAP. So now, just for the sake of it, I'm going to see if EAP has API fully restarted. It has. Let's go for the connecting, and let's try to see again the value of the JBoss ID. Up. Yeah. I mean, I was pretty sure it was going to work, but I don't like to demo stuff I never tried live. So at least now I'm happy it worked. So basically it changed that. So it basically saw there was a discrepancy between the desired state of the server and the actual state, and it fixed it. It didn't change anything else. Oh, by the way, just for the sake of it, if you go to subsystem here, and if you go to messaging, you can see that now I have in the server, I think it's server, I'm not good with that thing. Yes, GMS topic, I think we deployed topic, right? No, it's a queue we deployed. And we have my queue, which has also been configured as according to my playbook. Here is my GMS queue, my queue. Okay, I think that is all I wanted to demo. Cool, we have a bit of time for question. Yeah, just to demo it for the sake of it, again, I want to point out that if you are not using a product, if you just want to use community version, unless I'm wrong, you can just go middleware automation .wildfly, and this will install the Wildfly collection, which is again basically the upstream version of the collection. One very nice thing for us, it doesn't affect you a lot, but I like to say it, is that we have to, or people doing this upstream, downstream have to kind of fork. The downstream is kind of fork of the upstream. And the minute you release a new downstream version, you kind of have to keep in balance those two forked versions. We don't do that. We are lucky enough to be able to generate the downstream collection based on the upstream. So we don't really have, inside Red Hat, we don't really have a GitHub project where we put fixes for our collection that are specific to the downstream. We do everything upstream and then we generate the collection. I'm saying that because if by any chance there is nobody here using Ansible regularly and doing collection, you might be interested to know that. Okay, so just to show you that you can install middleware automation Wildfly, which is basically the upstream version. You can use that instead of the downstream version. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I need to see if there was any question, unless the moderator can tell me if there is any question. And I'm going to shut up so you guys can open your mic and ask question if you have any question.
So there's one question. Dennis asked, we're thinking about using Ansible for test provisioning in the sense of integration tests. Are there extensions, collections for nice reporting about what happened during the installation process, what fails, etc.?
That's a very cool question. I actually think the Red Hat QE would love to have the answer to this question. I would say most likely, but that's going to be like you need to discuss with the Ansible community. If you, this question was from Denis. Can you write me an email about that? So my email is obviously romain@redhat.com because I was lucky enough to snack that. So it's an easy email to remember. Write me an email because that's a very interesting topic and I want to dig into that. And maybe the Ansible side of Red Hat can give us some cool installation, cool tips about that. So yeah, sorry, the answer is a bit disappointing. It's, I hope so. There was a question before that Emmanuel already replied, which is a good thing because I wanted to point it out that we have Emmanuel Huguenet in the room, and Emmanuel Huguenet is the one who did this very nice YAML configuration feature for EAP. So I'm going to take the opportunity to thank him publicly again for that because this is awesome. Thanks to the work he did there, we have a very smooth integration with EAP. So again, thanks, Emmanuel. Yes, so which EAP version is supported? That's a bit tricky because we arrived late in the EAP 7.4 cycle. You can use the collection to install EAP, starting EAP 7.4. I'm pretty sure it could even work for EAP 7.6, but we have not tested that, and please don't do it. But 7.4 or even 7.3 or 7.2 works fine. However, and this is a big however, the YAML configuration features, the part where we tune the subsystem, that is only available starting EAP 7.4.9, I think. I think it's partially available in 7.4.5. There was a couple of bugs. So basically, if you want to tune the subsystem, you really need to use the latest version available for 7.4. Yeah, that's basically the answer. But again, this is just for the subsystem part. If you just want to download the EAP from Red Hat chain, unzip it, start it as a systemd services, and you don't want to touch anything in the subsystem, this is working with EAP 7.4.0 and even with EAP. I think we've tested it with. I did a demo a few months, year or months ago with EAP 7.1. I even think that. The issue, of course, is that if you deploy EAP 7.1, 7.2, so they are no longer supported. You should be using EAP 7.4. So That's as a Red Hat employee, I can only urge you to use the latest version available. I have another question. We are thinking about using Terraform to deploy Java application in our environment. Of course you should. So I have to finish reading the question for the recording. We are thinking of using Terraform to deploy your Java application to cloud environment. Should we look at Ansible as an alternative? So I will say yes, because Ansible is awesome. I know it's not my level of expertise. So I know that there is email in Red Hat about Ansible being an alternative to Terraform and why is it better or not. Like there is discussion about that. I am completely not the right person for that. If your Googling cannot get you anywhere on that, but you have the chance to have some kind of sales rep from Red Hat, bug them about that. Sales SA, like solution architect on sales, love this kind of question. They love to answer to it. They're very happy about like providing you all the argument against and for and for, and they can give you a bit more of like they have more information than I have on top of my head to give you why you should use Terraform instead of Ansible. I am pretty sure the answer. So the sales are going to tell you that Ansible is awesome. You should use Ansible, right? That's their job. They paid for that. The real reality of this from my time as a consultant is more likely that depending on how you do things, and this is why little details matter, you might be better off with using Terraform or Ansible. So my advice, not as a Red Hat employee, but as a former consultant, will be, before you jump in this decision, like do the work of looking at your use case very carefully and look at how much Terraform is a better solution for you than Ansible, because the only way this is going to fail for you is picking the wrong one. It's picking the one that, you know, even if you love Ansible and Ansible seems to be cool, but it's not working with your use case, you're better off using Terraform or the other way around, because this is the last thing you want to do is basically pick the wrong solution. Yeah, that's. I'm sorry, I'm not an expert enough to have a better answer to that. That's a very good question. Auto will be out of work if everything is automated. Well, no. So, and this is interesting. Actually, it's almost a philosophical debate, because this is rejoining the big discussion around AI we have right now on generative AI. A lot of people are screaming, "Oh, AI are going to put us out of work." My thing with that, and it has been true for automation since the time of, you know, freaking 40 chain supply. If your work can be fully automated by something, it's not an interesting work. You shouldn't be doing it. You should be supervising the automation doing it. So in this world, Auto will stop doing 5 clicks every 3 weeks for a release and sweating because something failed. In this new world, Auto will write playbooks. So Auto will go in Ansible training and will learn how to use Ansible and will become a far more interesting and valuable employee, because he will provide better value than, hey, I've clicked on this and this and this at the right time. So that's my point of view. Obviously, if you have a gazillion army of ops, you might need to do some restructuring to make them useful. But I really truly believe that automation is not firing people, it's all of you, the same people, to deliver better, safely, faster, and in a secure fashion, the same kind of work. So I will say that Auto will move from 2 releases a quarter to 2 releases a week. That will be the good ending of this. Any other question, or should we give back the mic to the next session?
There's one more question.
Yes, I tried to reply to that during the presentation, but it's good that you're reminding that. So basically, as I said, the downstream collection we provide are at no cost. If you have already a subscription for Red Hat on EAP, you are supported for this side, and if you already have a subscription for Ansible, you're also supported on this side. To be honest, I don't know what's happening if you just have one of the subs and you run into an issue with the collection. Most likely, we're still going to help you because you are our customer and we like you. But in a perfect world, you have both subscription. If you're considering using Ansible, so I'm getting your answer is kind of, as a developer, like what the first subs I need to have. I will say, as a Java developer, the first sub is probably going to be EAP 1. So you can use, we still have some kind of developer subs you can use for free. You can just say, hey, I'm a developer, I want to play with EAP. You will use that, so you can play with it, and you can start doing automation with the Wildfly open source Wildfly collection upstream. And then you can look into having an Ansible subs. I guess also I don't know well the subs of Ansible, so subscription of Ansible, but I'm pretty sure you also have a developer testing subscription. You can use both and basically use the collection directly. But yeah. So I don't know if I answered. It's kind of a complicated situation. So I hope I answered it clearly. If not, please ask me again to develop that. I don't know if I was clear or confusing.